District 721 to order. Now, please note all board members are here. And if we would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, do you have any open forums? All right, so, motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Whoop, second. Go.
Well, I'm sorry. Okay, hold on. Motion to approve the agenda. I got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Let's go to Spotlight of Success. Sorry about that.
No problem. Oh, we did the. I see it there now. Nope. There we go. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome, or thank you for having me tonight. I'm just going to give you just a quick little rundown on where we're at so far this year with community education. And so starting at this, I know I introduced our hexagon that we use to try to explain a lot of the programs before. So just as a reminder of that, and then I'll just quickly go through some of the highlights in those different areas. So first of all, looking at early learning with ECFE and preschool, they've had a really successful year so far, and we're really just concentrating mostly on this year's data right now. So ECFE so far this year has offered over 30 different classes and special events to families, and the year has only just started. The enrollment for those classes and special events right now is running at about an average of 75% capacity with it. Some fill up completely and are full. Some are smaller numbers of enrollment. So overall, they're doing a really nice job with that, and have many, many fun activities coming up in the future too. So, and then looking at preschool, try to pull some numbers looking at some of the averages, over the last 5 years. And we are, trying to regain to, those numbers after COVID and moving up and seeing where we're at with capacity. One thing that Mary had worked with this fall is doing a community needs survey to the parents and to see what sort of programming they're looking for as we try to plan for next year, because we need to have that ready to go by January. So what we can see from there is that the full day classes are very, very popular, and from the survey that was also indicated, and they also indicated the desire for more outdoor education opportunities. So those are two things that we're looking at and pursuing that way. Now, don't add all my numbers up, because early childhood is wonderful about things shifting all the time and kids moving into different programs. On top of here, we have each year there's been about 45 to 60 different slots for early childhood special ed as well. So those numbers aren't reflected in there in those capacity. But you can see we're pretty full already for this year, and so trying to figure out ways that we can increase that capacity and actually get the program and really get the programming that parents were looking for. Looking then at our childcare with Kids Company and Pre-K Wrap. These are the numbers at our 3 sites for Kids Company for this year. And Raven Stream is about equal to where they've been in the past, or where they were last year. And then Falcon Ridge and Eagle View are slightly lower this year, just based on the needs of the families. And then with Wrap, this year at the CEC, we're up a little bit from where we were last year, and then very equal at Eagle View for our enrollment there as well. So again, I'm trying to listen to the parents as far as what they need in that wraparound care to go with their preschool and their school day to fit their needs the best. Kids Company always has more kids in the morning than they do in the afternoon. That's where our heavier usage comes from. Looking at the one section with youth classes then, this is just taking a breakdown from July 1 to December 7th of this year of where those different activities have landed. You can see that youth sports are very, very popular. They just, with the teams, there's a lot more students that are able to take advantage of that. And then driver's education is also another really big class for us for youth. We do offer a variety of classes through the different strands and domains of learning. The early childhood that's listed there, those are more the early childhood classes that take place in the summer. These are in addition to the classes that the early learning program offers. And so there are some, so a wide variety of opportunities there for the students. With the music and theater, those classes are for like elementary age and middle school as well, and so those opportunities are given to a wide range. Then we look at the adult classes. The mind and body classes are the most popular. In that would be our defensive driving classes for our 55 and over population. And then also any of our yoga and Zumba classes that are held within community ed. These aren't the ones at the fitness center. So those are by far the most popular, but again, trying to do a variety to meet the interests of all the people. And again, this is the data just from July 1 as we come in. We did start tonight our adult class for adults with unique abilities. And so we had four adults sign up for that. And we did some baking and arts, Christmas crafts sort of things. They were very excited. So we'll be continuing that on a monthly basis as well. And I have started to meet with some of our seniors and ask them about, we have really about 3 different groups that are out there. And wanting to get a person from each of those groups so we can have a little advisory council for that group. And so we can find out exactly what they're looking for and what times are best in their schedules. And then in the Fitness and Aquatic Center, looking at really the swimming lessons and the Neptune Aquatics, you can see, again, we're just always looking for instructors and looking for lifeguards. We are maxing out in swimming lessons. So far this year, since July 1, we've had 287 children take part in swimming lessons. We have more that would like to do that. Working with Heather on that as well, seeing can we get an instructor during the day and maybe get some like level 1 and 2 classes when the students are coming out of preschool. That might be an opportunity there too. So as long as we can find the instructor, they're open to try some of those things. And then the Neptune swim team participants, the number for 22-23 looks really low right now, that because when this was taken, this didn't include the girls coming out of the high school season. And so we expect that number to be up there, more comparable to where it has been in the past. Also, Neptune just finished hosting an MRC state meet not last weekend, but the first weekend in December. And they did a great job with the parent volunteers and everyone having a really successful meet. It just was very well received by everyone. Then just looking at our section for facilities, this is just from our level 2 to 5 users since July 1. So this is anything outside of the school district groups. So what's fun to see is we've had almost 3,400 hours of facility use by the community, so, so far this year. And then I can see also there has been a lot more interest in pool rentals coming back up as we're hitting towards the winter. There's a lot of inquiries with that, and so seeing if we can fit those schedules to work. So the pool's just really full and busy, so there's not a lot of time available to rent, but people are interested in that. Then the last section we have is just our partnerships, which is really important to us, just to do all of the work that we do. So I just tried to highlight a few of those items, like our preschool students visiting Praha Village, story walks with the local businesses that you may see posted on our Facebook or see at the businesses. Collaboration with the high school sports teams for youth activities. When we've held like a volleyball tournament here, we can't do that without them. To serve as refs and to help out with that. The football players were wonderful with helping, and the elementary kids just appreciate that so much. So all those partnerships with the high school sports teams. We did a healthy living open house for our senior citizens. That was a community ed and FAC joint venture with that. So we hope to, continue that in the next year as well. I mentioned already the hosting of the state MRC meet. It just puts our facilities on a great light with everything. And they've also had several really strong sponsorships with the community to support that team. The community education has been offering a history class at Praha, and so going in there, so taking it out into the community for the people who can't come to us. And then we've expanded pickleball over to Elko New Market. That's been going since September, and over 40 people are enrolled in that as well. And so they've been having a fun time. They're looking for some additional time and dates too, but we got it started really strong. And then the Arts Council introduced the Music at the Bros, and they're working on next year's schedule, and then also the outdoor performance stage is a big project there. And then partnering with the transition program to host activities for adults with unique abilities, which I mentioned, we started that tonight. And then just Mayo is going to be providing some education opportunities down in our community room, and working with some things for early learning as well. So that's just a high level view of some of those things that have happened this year. And so, looking forward to continuing those and building on more. So then just a few things on our next steps. For early learning, trying to figure out ways to increase capacity to meet community needs for that preschool, and to offer the format of classes that they're looking for. If they're looking for more of the full days, how can we do that? And so we're working on that. And then the exploring and expanding outdoor education options we'll start strongly with 4-year-olds, but also being able to incorporate that for ECFE as well. Then the youth classes and childcare, just pursuing opportunities to offer new high interest and high quality programs, and continue the recruitment of swimming instructors and lifeguards. For adult classes, we're trying to update the class offerings, trying to see what's new out there and what people are interested with, and expand programming for seniors. The facilities, reviewing facility costs of comparable and nearby districts, making sure we're in alignment with that so that we still are getting people encouraged to use our facilities. And then as far as revenue, trying to work on that program development to increase participation and revenue, and then pursuing different grant opportunities that are there. So that's a little bit of what we're working on right now. But again, as I said, it's all based off of our dedicated staff, strong partnerships with the community, and that's the only way we're going to grow.
So I have so much going through my head right now, and I'm going to make this statement, and I hope it comes out the way I'm thinking. But when Janelle was here, she took community ed to a level that was like amazing to me. And you just went up another notch.
Thank you.
So I'm like continued growth and opportunities. That's the first thing I wrote down. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm hearing. And it's amazing to me how broad, whether it's a newborn child to my grandma, all the way, we are servicing everyone in our district. And so thank you for doing that.
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Well, we're trying our best, and like we said, it is such a strong team that had been established, and we just keep building on it.
Well, it comes with strong, great direction, so thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments or questions? I just want to say, when we passed the bond referendum in 2015, our big message was it was going to be intergenerational from toddler to seniors. And I mean, that's what community education is. It involves everyone, and you got the hexagon there and all the different areas. So there's just so much to it, but it's such a great benefit to our district and community at large. So all of our communities, I should say. So thank you.
What else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job.
Okay, so approval of the consent agenda.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. So on to committee reports. Policy.
Just as per normal, we did MSBA and per administration changes, just updating policies.
Southwest Metro.
Southwest Metro normally doesn't meet during the month of December unless there's some pressing issue, and there has been no pressing issue that would result in our meeting.
Special Ed.
Special Ed has no meeting scheduled for December either.
Community Ed.
No,
Wellness.
no.
Wellness.
Early childhood.
Yes, they had a fundraiser, a Droolin Moose fundraiser, which is a brand of candy, and they netted $10,673. And so far, they've purchased new Circle Time rugs, a projector for the baby room for ECFE, and a custom-made cart for tricycle storage. And then the teachers are creating wish lists for other items for this money. And they're working on the preschool program offerings for next year based on a survey that they took with the parents. And the brochure will be mailed out after the first of the year for the 23-24 school year. And they'll have 2 preschool parent information nights. Anyone with a preschool child is welcome to attend. And registration will open on January 27th. And the winter, spring ECFE brochures were mailed, and registration is currently open for weekly classes and special events. And the Let's Play Saturdays will begin in January and run through March. All families with children ages birth to 5 and older siblings can come to the CEC gym for unstructured motor play time every Saturday from 9 to 11.
Fitness and aquatic.
Yeah, so we meet every other month, and so we had met last month in November, last day of the month in November. And biggest things we went through for us was we went through the revised budget. We set a preliminary budget earlier in the year, and then we had approved the revised budget. It was very much in line with what we had done originally, so I would say that's a good thing. Memberships remain, they're holding steady. And then we spent quite a bit of time just talking about the equipment renewal. We're getting to the point where a lot of the equipment was given to us from Mayo, and we're getting to the point where we have to start looking at replacing the equipment. And so just trying to develop a schedule that we can budget for going forward. So we're in a good spot there to have that set up going for the future.
Are the memberships back to what they were pre-COVID?
No, but I can't remember exactly where the numbers are at, but they're
I was
not
just
to that
curious.
point yet. Yeah, they remained. I'm looking at the revenue. throughout the year, they remain pretty steady. So even as like seasonality of things, and I know they're ramping up here for Q1 with kind of the influx of people with January coming, but otherwise, yeah, they're still not where they were at before.
Okay.
On to our superintendent good news.
Well, we got in all the buildings, excuse me, got holiday concerts, band and choir, elementary, middle school, high school level. In fact, tonight, I know Leo and I will be going after the meeting here to the high school band concert, and they got the choir concert next Monday. Ravenstream's got their band concert tonight too, their music concert, I should say, and I can't remember the other buildings, but we got a lot going on with that. We've got the holiday break coming up, so next Thursday will be the last day, Thursday, December 22nd, and then we come back to school on January 3rd. And then I just want to say, Leo and Tammy, I just want to thank you for your work on the school board. It's been a pleasure working with you, and Leo, the 4 years, your common sense on decision making and input that you've given, and just respect you a ton. And Tammy, through these times, I mean, 9.5 years on the board, all right? We were trying to count them today. 9.5 years, so your service and leadership, especially through these difficult times, COVID and whatever, that I can't thank you guys enough. So I really appreciate everything you've done.
All right, so we have a resolution, Denny.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to consider the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee resolution.
She's got to read it.
I'll take care of that after we.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a
Can't
second?
get mine open either.
But-
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider the resolution for the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee. And tonight we have Jean, who is a member of the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee. I will be reading the resolution, and then I'll take the roll call vote after she reads it. Thank you, Jean.
Now it came.
The American Indian Parent Advisory Committee resolution. Whereas the school board or district has an AIPAC composed of parents and guardians of American Indian children who are eligible for Indian education programs, American Indian language and cultural teachers and paraprofessionals, American Indian teachers, American Indian counselors, American Indian adults enrolled in educational programming, and American Indian representatives from community. Whereas the school board or district affords the AIPAC the necessary information and the opportunity to effectively express their views concerning all aspects of American Indian education and the educational needs of the American Indian children enrolled in the schools and programs. And whereas the AIPAC is directly involved with and advises the school board and district staff on Indian education program planning. And whereas the AIPAC develops and submits recommendations to the school board and district staff pertaining to the needs of American Indian students. Therefore, be it resolved that the AIPAC concurs that the school board and district are compliant with Minnesota statutes section 124D.78, and that the school board and district are meeting the needs of American Indian students. We, the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee, issue a vote of concurrence. We attest that the school board and our district are compliant with Minnesota statutes and that the school board and our district are meeting the needs of American Indian students.
Thank you. Do you have any questions or comments for Jean? Not then I'll take the roll call vote. Leo?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Dennis, yes. Item passes 7-0.
Approval of World's Best Workforce presentation, please.
Good evening. I'm here tonight as a follow-up from a presentation a couple months ago with our district data. And so this is a formal report through World's Best Workforce that we have to report back to the Minnesota Department of Education. And so this is all part of our strategic planning process and in agreement with our annual curriculum group, which we met last week. I'm here to present you with our goals and results from last year. So this is last year's information. And the state sets forth 5 overarching goals that we then create sub-goals underneath. And so these goals include that all children are ready for school. So with that goal, we target an early learning goal in conjunction with Mary Bartuszek and her team. The next overarching goal is that all 3rd graders can read at grade level. And so with this goal, we work with our elementary principals and building leadership teams. The next one is all racial and economic achievement gaps between students are closed. This one is looked at across our district. And then all students are ready for career in college. This specific goal is where we look at our students who take the ACT. And then the last one is that all students graduate from high school. So those 5 areas are set forth by the Minnesota Department of Education. So our first goal from last year was that 90% of children eligible for kindergarten in 2021 will achieve level 4 on the formalized COR Advantage in the alphabetic knowledge component. This is an assessment that our early learning teachers perform with our preschool students who are enrolled with the New Prague Area Schools preschool. This goal was not met. However, we were close with 86% of kids meeting that goal. Goal 2 is that all 3rd graders are reading at grade level. And for this area, we looked at our A reading assessments, which is something that all students in grades 1 through 8 take at least 2 times a year in our district. They take this assessment in reading and in math. And so for this test, we were looking at students who were in the low risk or on track target. And so our goal, looking at across all 3 buildings, was that we were going to increase from 66% in the fall of 2021 to 75% in the spring of 2022. And we didn't quite meet it. We were at 73%. However, we were close. And a couple months ago, the specific data with our A reading data was presented to you across the buildings and also grade level breakdown. For goal 3, for closing the achievement gap, we looked at our free and reduced lunch students compared to our non-free and reduced lunch students, as this is one of our bigger population groups in our district. And so in this data, we looked at both our reading and MCA data. And here you'll see the data broken down. In this example, we took our 2019 data going pre-COVID to comparing it to 2022. And so we partially met our goal on both of these, whereas our achievement gap decreased, which was a wonderful celebration. However, our overall proficiency groups declined in both reading and math. And then for college and career readiness, this year we looked at the ACT College Ready benchmark. And again, we did not meet the goal, but we were close with 25% of our students, graduating seniors, meeting all 4 ACT College Readiness benchmark scores, whereas our goal was 30%. And then our last one is that all students graduate. And this one you'll notice is actually our 2021 graduation data. And that is because we don't yet have our 2022 graduation data. We are still waiting to receive that from the State Department. And so our graduation rate for 2021 was 96%. So we met that goal. And when our 2022 information is ready, Superintendent Dittburner will share that with you. These then tie into our overarching district goals that Superintendent Dittburner creates with our building leadership team. And in that regard, we're looking at all students meeting or exceeding grade level benchmarks on classroom summative assessments, in addition to our FAST test, which is our A reading and A math that I noted earlier, and MCAs, which we are required to administer by the Minnesota Department of Ed in grades 3 through 8, 10th grade, and 11th grade. We also look at our 4-year senior high graduation rate will be 97% or higher for this upcoming year. And then we also look at our student survey results that our buildings administer, that students will feel welcome and respected within their school's learning environment. So with that, do you have any follow-up questions from this presentation or from a couple months ago when we kind of gave you a bigger breakdown of our district data?
I have one.
Yeah.
For the first goal, all children are ready for school. How much impact do we have on children who are I don't know that I understand this.
Sure. So that specific assessment is an assessment that our early learning teachers administer under the direction of Mary Bartuszczyk in our preschool program. And so what they're looking at there is they're looking at data that they collect with all of the students who are entering kindergarten. And so I don't have her data from years prior. Are you wondering more like pre-COVID compared to now?
No.
Or,
it's
okay.
How much influence do we have on them pre-kindergarten? Is this only for the kids who have enrolled in
Yeah.
ECFE?
Yes, yes. However, the majority of our kindergarten students do attend our preschool. I don't have the exact numbers, but our preschool services a high number of our kindergarten students.
But
that-
then all the kindergarten children are tested.
No,
are-
not how we use this goal. This is this is preschool data.
And
But-
only the kids who attend preschool here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So if they attended St. Wentz or whatever, that's not included.
No,
Okay.
this is strictly New Prague Area Schools early learning assessment. And partly why we do that is because we look at ourselves as an E12 system. We do take assessments on all incoming kindergartners. And so we do have that data that we can also use in planning. That's partly why we do those 2 days of assessment days when teachers are able to meet one-on-one. In that situation, we do look at all of our kindergartners, and we have data not aligned to that assessment that preschool uses. We use assessments that our teachers have created, and so we use that data to then really drive kind of that moving forward aspect.
Well, that answered my question. I didn't know if this was.
No, it's a great question. Yep.
Don't you screen like 3 and 4-year-olds? I mean, all?
Yeah, through early learning, yes.
You don't, but, I mean, they didn't
Yes,
have.
all students have to have a early learning screener before they're allowed to attend kindergarten. They may not take the screener with us, however. They may take that in a different district.
Okay, but, so then, but those statistics aren't used for this goal?
Not a part of this actual
Because
assessment.
this just shows what
This is-
we're doing for
Yeah, this is one
kids.
assessment that early learning kind of pulls out to really show, kind of who's ready and who's not.
Maureen, I was wondering, could you explain to us how these goals are developed, who participates in creating these, and then also is there any funding or anything that is tied to these?
Sure.
To this?
Yep. So there is no funding tied to this. This is a report that we have been having to submit for multiple years, and so we're not penalized for not meeting our goals, and we don't receive increased funding for meeting the goals. So it's really meant from the state level to be a reflection tool for us to use to guide what we do. In years past, once we'll submit our goals and we'll submit our results to the state, and then typically they will then share feedback with us, if you will. And so they'll send that to Superintendent Dittberner, and they'll send feedback on how we wrote our goals and, maybe ask for suggestions in the future. Typically, that's the extent of the feedback that they get. And so, what we do is we try as an administrative team, we take Superintendent Dittberner's goals, and then with these 5 kind of benchmarks from the state, try to create some goals that are a little bit more measurable, that we can, provide some action steps to. And so, also part of the narrative that we submit to the department is, what are some specific things that we're doing to, kind of look at our graduation rate and how are we helping our students with their literacy skills, because those are the benchmarks that the state works at. Another layer to this that's not in this presentation, but all of our buildings also create building-specific goals underneath Superintendent Dittberner's goals. So all of our principals in the summer bring in their leadership teams, and they create specific goals that drive what their building really does. And then that's really meant to guide building level conversations on how they're really moving students. And the goals are academic and also social emotional. Yep.
Is this something that all schools participate in, or is this just
Yes.
us?
No, we're required, all public schools are required to submit a report. And so the report is due December 15th. And so we will submit this report. And this has been something we have been doing for multiple years. And like I said, the feedback we get from the Department of Ed really varies from year to year, but they tend to send a little bit of feedback every year. So.
Okay, now,
The world's best workforce is a state mandate.
Yes,
It's been 10 years, I think. isn't it?
yes.
Go ahead, Leo.
both goals 2 and 3 were missed miserably. Do you know how we compare to the rest of the state? Both of those are, directly impacted by kids not being in school.
Sure. So, goal number 2, in terms of reading proficiency, we use our FAST data. And so that is not something that's public data that I can look and see how other districts are doing. Now, if we were using MCA data, that's public data. And, we do look at MCA data with Superintendent Dittberner when we look at comparable districts. That is all public data that we can access, broken down by grade level, broken down by school, and all of that. Same with the achievement and racial and economic achievement gaps. Depending on students' or schools' population, they have to have a large enough cell size to have that data. But that data is also viewable. Whenever we're looking at MCA data, that's something that we can compare across schools and break it down because it's public. But when we look at some of the more specific layers, which we choose these goals and how we want to. For us, like the reason we choose FAST is because it's a shorter assessment. It's also an assessment that we can take multiple times a year with students. And also that assessment specifically is meant to track growth over time, whereas MCA is not meant to be looking at growth. And so that's why, like, through our goals here, we tried to use like different data points, though we can pull a lot of that data as needed. So in terms of like comparing other districts, we typically don't with our world's best workforce, but we can find some comparable data. So
I would say, yeah, I can't speak for the ACT on goal 4, but like goal 5, graduation rate's 96%. There isn't a district
Right.
around that's even close to us.
Right.
That's one of the highest in the state.
Yeah, I was looking at 2 and 3 where and that's mostly, 2 is comparing third graders who weren't in school for a year. And, it's expected that would drop. I just wondered if there's any significant difference between us and other districts, and you said you don't have.
not in
access to
regard
that.
to that assessment. However, our MCA data,
MCAs we
when we
do.
looked at we were right in line with kind of everybody else. The state average did dip with MCA data as well, but I could certainly provide that to Tim, and we can share that with you, just kind of a comparison of third grade MCA data.
Standardized test scores have just gone down throughout the country.
Right. That's what I was curious about, is how we fared compared to everybody else, because talking to other teachers in other districts and talking to teachers here, we had just anecdotally a much better success rate with the distance learning than a whole lot of other districts did. There was kids who were
Well-
absent from school for a year and a half.
We'll get you the data on that for MCAs, especially for third grade. Even though ours did dip, I can't give you a percentile, but I would say we fared better than many districts. We're still up there, probably quite a bit compared to most districts in the state. But we'll get that information for you. All right. Thanks, Maren.
Yep.
Needs approval.
You want approval for that? I don't have lines.
I'll make a motion to approve that presentation for the Best Workforce.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Approval for the revised budget. Sandy.
Okay, good evening. Every December, I always present a revised budget. You know, we do a preliminary budget in June, and that's, you know, we don't have all our staffing finalized and everything finalized, so I always do a revised budget in December, along with our Truth and Taxation hearing, which will be given right after this presentation. Just want to talk about the main changes from the preliminary budget. First of all, I want to talk about the revenue. The local revenue, which is like admissions and things like that, increased. I'm projecting they'll increase about $133,000 from our preliminary budget, really to be more in line with last year's actuals. We were really pretty low in our budget, not knowing where we were going to come in at the end of last year. So I made them more in line with last year's actuals. Of course, we had a decreased state general ed revenue because our enrollment was lower than projected, and that was $655,000. Although our current revenue is almost 17 pupil units above the updated projection, and haven't seen a real big dip. You know, typically we lose students from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. Have not seen that dip yet. So hopefully, you know, we'll come in above that projection. I was able to increase the special ed revenue by almost $500,000. Once our 21-22 data was finalized and they rerun the estimates for the special ed, because it's always based on prior year data. And so I was able to increase that projection up quite a bit. And then we have increased federal revenue by about $100,000. After clarification from MDE, we found out we were able to fund our current targeted services and summer school programs with actually just targeted services with this federal grant. Before, we didn't think we could, but we can, and so we were able to fund our targeted services program with that money. And just as a reminder, our COVID federal grants will almost all be spent by 6/30/23. You hear in the news about the big fiscal cliff coming for districts. And I suppose the good news about not getting so much is we don't have as big of a cliff. I don't know if that's some good news. And so overall Fund 1 revenue increased by about $150,000. So this just shows you our preliminary unassigned, our final unassigned, and final total. So the unassigned revenue increased about $136,000 from our preliminary budget. Now moving on to general fund expenses. We were able to, of course, update it for salary and benefits for current staff. And salaries and benefits both decreased pretty significantly. And I think you recall at the end of last year, we found a little glitch in how we were projecting our benefits, our health insurance. And so we came in quite a bit under budget last year in that, so I was able to lower that quite a bit, which is good. Purchase services did increase a couple $100,000. And the main reason is we added, if you recall, we're talking about repairing or replacing the high school tennis courts over the summer. And I just put in the $200,000 for the June portion of that, is what we're thinking we're gonna have in June. So that will actually fall into this fiscal year. So it just moves it from next year to this year. It's not an increase. It's just a moving. And Craig has been looking at how we might be able to not do a full replacement. He's been working with some engineers on that, which could save quite a bit of money. So we're hoping that that works out. We also are in need of contracting our psych services for the entire year. The preliminary budget we had for half a year. Psychs are very hard to find. And that $86,000 increase is partially offset by an open position, which is one of the reasons salaries decreased. Custodial services, we had to increase, we decided to outsource all of the CEC custodial services because we can't find custodians still, although we are pretty much fully staffed in the other buildings, which is a step up from last year and the year before. That's $112,000, and that's partially, again, offset by open custodial positions, which have been taken out of salary and benefits. Supplies and materials decreased about $32,000, so not much change. I had Marin look at the curriculum. We usually come in under budget in this area, so I just had her adjust that to where we thought we would come in. So that's usually an item we come in under budget. We had to increase diesel and diesel fuel especially by about $100,000. Diesel fuel is not coming down, it's going up. And so then I just found out both of our fuel pumps at the bus garage have failed at the same time. So we're having to pay for replacement of those, which we'll either take out of capital or LTFM. We're still trying to get a reading from MDE. So, and if we can't get them fixed, we have to buy diesel from gas station, and that will increase those costs significantly. So we're hoping to get those fixed really soon.
Is that something you can work with the local gas stations on or not?
Not really, no.
Don't we fall under tax exempt status?
We do, but we don't, if we buy it through this wholesale, I shouldn't say any, but Craig talked to me about what we don't have to pay if we buy it direct. And so it is higher if we have to do it with a gas station. So we're trying to get those diesel pumps fixed very soon. And then I adjusted building allocations down based on enrollment decrease. Equipment decreased $158,000. We are not purchasing 3 school buses this year due to we can't get them anyway. And so we usually pay for 2 out of capital, 1 out of the general fund, and so that decreased our equipment purchases by almost $300,000. We are not going to be purchasing a buildings and ground vehicle, which again, we were having trouble getting, but we were able to repurpose some transportation vehicles for our buildings and ground staff to use as they go between buildings. And we also, the new GASB lease coding moves some expenses from purchase services to capital. So it's not a change in cost, it's just where they're coded. And they were coded correctly last year, but when I did the preliminary budget, I didn't have the new budget in the right place. Other expenses decreased slightly. I decreased the building carryover budgets. If they don't spend all of their building allocation, they can typically carry over about 10% of their allocation. Talked with each of the principals, and they were very open to just decreasing that amount available, and they might still not spend it all, but we decreased the amount available. And then I did add a $15,000 transfer to early childhood screening losses. I had taken that out, but looking at it, I really need to add that back in. And so overall expenses decreased by that amount. So again, we're looking at the unassigned preliminary and final, and then the total. My projected unassigned fund balance is 6%, which is approximately $1 million below our goal. I do expect to come in slightly under budget, like we have in the past, not as much because I did some lowering already to try to get a more realistic sense of where we'd come in. I'm hoping we could end up at 6.5, possibly 7, but that would be probably pushing it. But it's 6% is, like I say, about $1 million below our goal. Here's our general fund balance history, just showing that revised and the 8% goal. So our revised would be 2.8 million, and the goal is approximately 3.7 million. Here's some information on select general fund reserve accounts. I'm showing 3 years of history. Staff development, we typically spend that every year. Actually, a few years ago, we hadn't been spending it, and they allowed us to do a one-time transfer, and we did that. LTFM, we Again, with that $200,000 being put into this year, that balance is going to be low. Operating capital is actually going to increase. We had initially expected to decrease significantly, but because of the buses, the vehicle, and some other things, it actually is going to increase slightly, which is very good news. Gifted and talented, we have been spending that down. We should end the year at about $34,000 reserve. And then safe schools. If you remember last year, we did have those security projects. We don't have those. So our fund balance is going to increase, and it will keep increasing unless there's some special security projects that we have going. And there are other ways to use those funds. If we have our security needs met, we can use them for other staff, which we'll be looking at during the budget adjustment process. Fund 2, our free and reduced population increased significantly because right now we're able to direct certify any child that's on medical assistance, and that's something new. Don't know if that's going to continue, but it did for this year. And so that increases our federal and state revenue based on that. It also is going to increase our compensatory revenue by $400,000 next year, which is welcome news for our budget as well. Again, we don't know if that's going to continue. I hope it does. Overall meal participation is lower than at the start of 1920. Everybody's been eligible for free meals. Now they have to pay for them. It's just kind of readjusting, I think, to the norm. Our expenses are higher than preliminary budget due to being fully staffed, which is good news because last year we were understaffed in almost every building, and we are still seeing increased food prices. Our overall fund balance is expected our fund balance projection increased by $15,000 to $856, and this shows you a chart. In 2021, it was $500,000, then it jumped all the way up to $1.2 million due to all the schools, all the lunches being paid by federal, and we see it going down. We have our new nutrition services director, Jenny Yesser, and she's just getting her feet wet now, but she will be trying to get a handle on how the participation is going and all of that. She just started in the first part of November, mid part of.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jenny, yes.
So she just started, so she's trying to get a handle on all that, and I'm sure she will very quickly. Community services. I'm just listing the 21-22 year-end balance and the 2023 projected. You see community ed, that negative comes from COVID and the lack of programming for that those 2 years. We are projecting an increase of that at $50,000. Sandy Loxton is going to be working on improving that community ed fund balance. We need to stay positive as a whole, but each different category can gain or lose in a year. ECFE, we're looking at gaining about $9,000. School readiness down about $100,000. That has been a planned decrease based on providing transportation to preschool students. And the unassigned fund balance, there's preschool screening, some non-public, and some grants and such in there. But our total fund balance is going to decrease by about $25,000 down to about $30,000. This again are the different areas in community services and the fund balance. You can see the community ed there, the first area. ECFE's been growing, school readiness has been coming down. Unreserved doesn't change a lot from year to year, and then the total. You can see your history there. Fund 7, there's no changes from the preliminary budget. That's just our debt service payments, so there's no change. Next steps, I guess I'll have Tim kind of talk to that. We kind of combined our budget adjustment process in this, at least our preliminary timeline. So Tim, if you'd like to talk about this.
Yeah, as you can see there, setting the budget adjustments and stuff like that, big thing is the communication. I'll be presenting the process to all the staff at all the different buildings, and then also meeting with the individual administrators. And getting input not just from the administrators individually, but opening up to all staff members, and that'll take place in January and probably into February at some period. But as you can see on the timeline there, we'll probably be presenting on March 27th the budget adjustments, the recommendation, and then with obviously your involvement and discussion, finalizing on April 24th. And I think the big thing on that is, you know, as we're going to have to monitor what goes on at the state level. So it'll be tricky. And as you can, you know, Sandy's talking about some things. We're off to, you know, a better budget outlook right now. Just all the stuff that she went over going into this whole thing. So that's a positive, and we'll see what happens to the state. But you know, we'll be taking a look at everything and talking about these at work sessions. But this is something that, again, I think it's important that everyone that wants to have a say can have a say in it. But it's something that we got to be careful. We do it in a professional way and do it individualized, so people aren't pointing fingers and looking at each other. And we just got to be able to communicate that. So I feel good about that.
Yeah, and January 9th, between now and January 9th, I'm going to be working on what I feel that target amount needs to be. So we'll be presenting that to the board on January 9th. And then we'll also present a final budget adjustment timeline. There's a couple things that happened in there. I know the kindergarten night is February 28th, so we get a better idea of kindergarten enrollments. We've got some things happening throughout the process. At first, the legislature was talking about trying to do a supplemental education bill in January. I think they've realized that they've got a lot to chew on, and I kind of doubt that's going to happen, actually. But yeah, I don't know what the process, usually it's all done at the end in the little room in the dark. No idea what it's going to be like with this legislative and governor makeup. We just have to kind of wait and see.
Sandy, do you anticipate any of these budget adjustments, it's probably hard to say, but impacting this year's budget at all at this point? Is there any upside, I guess, towards the tail end of this year?
Yes, it's possible. And I've already done some of that with the building carryover and some of the supplies and so forth. But everything for teachers and stuff is all set. But definitely I've got a few ideas in mind that we could implement yet this year and save a little bit of money, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, the budget looks, I forgot the figure, how much better than we projected already on the adjustment total. What was it?
Oh, $400,000. Just the compensatory revenue?
No,
Oh.
total. What was the,
600.
was it 600,000?
Yeah, yep.
So, I mean, that's, we're not going below 6%. And like Sandy said, maybe we're closer to 7 as we go into this. But if there's anything else we can do for this year, I mean, you know, Sandy will do it. So there's some moving parts here, but I'm confident we can do it, and you know, as best we can. But it's, you know, her projection from the state and everything, if both questions went down, was, you know, what was the amount?
4 and 4.
Yep.
4%. I think we'll probably get a little bit more than that, and maybe some one-time funds that we'd want to not spend all in one year maybe, but spread them out.
But in my presentations too, the reductions was 4 million. It's going to be, you know, just even from the start here, it'll be less than 4 million now. So I'm not saying 3 million is easy, but
Right.
we'll see. We'll see. Again, we got a lot of moving parts. We don't know what's going to go on with the state. So we'll have things ready, and we'll be able to discuss this.
And then I think it's important that the, you know, board start thinking about an operating levy discussion. We obviously have a levy that's expiring next year, the 246. Depending upon what the legislature does, if we'd have to increase that. There's always been talk to the legislature that boards can vote to renew a levy that's already been approved instead of going to the voters. There's all kinds of things going on, and it's all being talked about. And you know, I try to attend as many presentations as I can on this, and there's going to be a lot of talk coming up that I'll keep an eye on. Tim and I will keep an eye on. Any other questions?
Better than I thought it would, seriously.
Yeah.
So, Okay, so I need a motion to approve the 2022-23 revised budget, please.
So moved.
All-
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Andy, truth and taxation.
Yes, by the once a year, fun stuff for us to review. This is a required public meeting on the proposed tax levy. We have to discuss the taxes payable for the next calendar year, discuss the current year budget, which we just did, and provide an opportunity for public comment. Just as a reminder, from the 21-22 school year, the general fund, the sources of revenue, we only fund about 13% of our general fund revenues from local taxpayers and local levies. But our district as a whole, we do fund 22% because we have quite a bit of debt service we're paying off for all of our building projects and LTFM projects that we've had. So we have lots of different types of levies. We have voter-approved levies for building projects and also operating levies. We have school board decisions, local optional revenue, a bunch of miscellaneous leases, reemployment, OPEB. Then we have levies set by state formula. And so at the beginning of the levy process, I estimate what enrollment's going to be. Of course, that's 2 years out, really. So not always right on, but, and then they calculate those formulas based on state statute. All of the levies in red are equalized levies, and the goal of an equalized levy is to split the total revenue between local tax levies and state aid. And the goal is to try to equalize that impact between high and low property wealth districts. The formula that is set in state statute doesn't have any form of automatic acceleration built in, so we continually lose ground. And this year, of course, we did as well. We lost ground on those equalization, so that more will go to the taxpayers and less in state aid. So this is the final levy. It really didn't change much from the preliminary. It changed very little. Community services just changed by about $300 due to a mistake that MDE found in their calculations. So this is basically the same information that I presented at the preliminary levy in September. So our general operating levy is a little over $6 million, which is an increase of 1.8% over last year's, or the 2022 levy, but $100,000 higher. Community services is just under $400,000, which is a slight decrease of about $3,000. And not much to say about that. That's pretty even. Debt service, very even, just slightly smaller debt service schedule than in 2022. Our total levy is $14.3 million. That's basically even, $4,000 less than the current levy. So it's basically an even levy. This just shows a history from 2019. The total levy is in the aqua there. And so you can see actually the last 3 years it stayed pretty stable. And even the increase from 20 to 21 wasn't that big either. So we've had a pretty stable levy for the last few years. Voter approved versus non-voter approved. About 40% are non-voter approved and 60% are voter approved. That's because of the bond projects that we have, and just a small operating levy that's voter approved, the $246.70. Levy by fund, you can see our debt service is the majority of our levy, with community ed just being a little sliver. Estimated tax impact, we do have updated property values now. We just got them a couple weeks ago. So our net tax capacity increased 24% from 2022, and our referendum market value increased 23.5%. So significant increases in our tax base. If a property did not change in value, which is 0, but just for comparison purposes, the levy would decrease an average of $250 a year, or about 20%. However, The average home value in New Prague was $250,700. If that home value did not change, there'd be a decrease of $20,000, about $147 a year. If it increased between 10 and 15%, decrease of $61 a year. And if it increased more than 15%, which was the majority of the properties, actually our average value now in the city of New Prague is $288,000 as opposed to the $250,000, and that would be a decrease of $44 a year or 6%. Just want to note that the ag land tax credit does increase to 70% for the 2023 levy. For building bond debt service, that's been increasing 5% each year for the last several years, and that is the max right now, is the 70%. Oh, I have another one. And so then I just looked, the 65% tax credit last year saved our ag land owners of probably $500,000 in taxes, which is very good. And we get that in state aid instead.
And is that 70% stay in place now indefinitely, or does
Yep.
it like have to be reenacted, or?
No, that's the
Okay.
max. They'd have to change the statute.
Okay.
The budget information is as I presented earlier, and so the next step would be to ask the public if they want to give any feedback to the school board tonight. Would like you to certify the final levy. I certify that to the counties, and then they start collecting in April and May. And so we're just asking that the board certify the levy as presented at $14,270,275.
Any questions?
We have to open it up for comment, or?
Yeah, does anybody want to comment on the levy?
Here? No? Can I get approval for final calendar year 2023 levy certification?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Thanks, Sandy. Yes. This is my last meeting, and we're gonna talk about the calendar. I couldn't be more excited.
Well, the calendar.
Moving target.
We've talked about this at 2 meetings, a presented work session and the last one, so I don't know if there's anything to say. Like I said, we're pretty locked in when we have this flexible waiver agreement with the state that we're going to start before Labor Day and end in May. So it is what it is, and I don't know if there's any questions or anything.
Yeah, no changes since the last time.
No changes.
So, yeah.
Changes.
There's not much room for change, so.
No, there's not.
And there's a lot of continuity from year to year, so it's,
Yes.
I mean.
I
it
think
is what
I
it is.
think I told you 7 years now we've been doing this. So
Yeah, which is nice. And I only make fun of the calendar because of COVID, because we lived through how many changes in the calendar during COVID. So whenever it comes up, it just kind of cracks me up. We're talking about the calendar. So,
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023-2024 district as calendar as is.
Second.
all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Denny, you have a
Yes,
resolution.
we have a resolution to accept the donation from Chahot and Company, which is McDonald's in New Prague. And this is it's a very nice, nice donation. The New Prague Area School Board of Education has established a policy concerning the acceptance of gifts to the school district. Whereas the school board may accept the gift valued at $1,000 or more only by adoption of resolution by 2/3 of its members. And whereas the Choate and Company McDonald's wishes to donate $4,819.30 toward the unpaid lunch debt for students at New Prague area schools. Now be it resolved that the New Prague Area School Board of Education shall accept the donation under no circumstances. Do I have a motion to consider this resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider this resolution. Do you have any comment on it, Tim? Or Sandy?
Yeah, they contacted us, actually contacted me a couple of months ago to talk about this, just making a general donation. And then 2 weeks ago, Jenny got a call from them and saying they wanted to cover all the lunch debt. And so she looked at all the accounts that were $25 more or more negative and calculated that, and that's the amount that they donated. Very generous.
Very generous.
They've never done that before, have they?
No,
This is the
No,
first time
That's what I
been done.
thought.
Wow. That's amazing.
Any questions or comments? How do you vote on this, Eugene?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Leo?
Yes.
Dennis, yes. Item passes 7-0.
Thank you. Grant approval for New Prague Area Education Foundation grant approval. We have a grant for Raven Stream for $1,200 for the Speak Up in Our Schools mission, that all students and staff learn the 4 steps in addressing negative behaviors.
I'll make a motion to approve that grant.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. So that brings us to our last item, acceptance of Superintendent Ditburner's retirement. We all received a letter from, via email from Superintendent Ditburner last week, addressing the staff and board about his resignation. So after 9.5 years, Superintendent Ditburner has led our district with enthusiasm and a forward-thinking, out-of-the-box process. He has collaborated with our community members, school administration, parents, and students to make New Prague a desirable district. So for that, I say thank you. Tonight, I ask the board to accept his resignation, with his final day being June 30th, 2023.
What if we say no?
Well, you can. If you want to be a nay, you can be a nay. But it has been a pleasure.
We made the right decision in picking you as our superintendent, Tim. You served us well, very well.
You've done a great job.
Yes, I've enjoyed working with you.
So,
Do we need a motion?
I need a motion.
It's with great regret that I make this motion to accept Tim's resignation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 7-0. Sandy is going to just give us a couple guidelines to think about for the upcoming meeting in January as to our new search.
Right, right. So I've had a couple days to do a little bit of research. Of course, there's 2 organizations. One is MSBA, one is the South Central Service Cooperative. They're the kind of non-profit kind of organizations. And then there's School Exec Connect, which I haven't reached out to. I have reached out to both South Central Service Cooperative and MSBA. South Central Service Cooperative, because we are a member, will conduct a search for free, which is very nice. They did 5 searches last year, so not a lot, but they did some. MSBA would charge $13,900 for a search. And they also offer some training on hiring the right superintendent, although in talking with them today, they'd almost recommend that we just kind of move forward. No matter who we select is going to help us through the process and, make sure we follow all the rules and so forth. So what I'm thinking is, that both of the organizations will, do the profile and get, community involvement and staff involvement and all that. And Tim said that document that South Central Service Cooperative created before we hired him was very helpful to him as he began his job. So certainly could ask for proposals from actually the 3 companies, MSBA, South Central Service Cooperative, and School Exec Connect.
Who did we use before?
South Central Service Cooperative when we hired Tim.
Okay.
Yep.
I thought they were very good.
Yes.
The free option. We took the free
Free.
option with you.
Yep,
Okay.
I came by cheap.
Certainly
And-
got our money's worth.
Yeah.
Will they provide us the same kind of, we obviously want to send this out for proposal, I guess, but will they provide us the same type of guidance, like the do's and don'ts as we're trying to, okay, all right.
Yes, they will. And, MSBA conducted 33 searches last year, so it's quite a big step up. And MSBA told me that School Exec Connect had done 5 searches as well. So MSBA certainly does the majority of them. They have worked with a whole list of school districts that's on their website, but I would just propose that I can ask for proposals from each of the firms. And based on that, if you want to do an interview of 1, 2, or all 3, you certainly could do that, and then start the search process. So just looking for feedback. I just don't want to lose any valuable time in, the applicants there's not a lot of applicants, so we want to get ahead of the process.
I can just tell you from whether last year or just this fall, talking to people, the applicant pool, and that's why I could have waited till January, but I think it's in the best interest to try to get a head start on this. I think there's already 4 or 5 openings. Last year there were 75 openings, and there's just not the pool from, a big factor, I'll be honest with you, is COVID and what took place there and other things that have taken place since then. So it's probably not as attractive as a position. I think the one thing this district's got going its favor, the reputation alone, some of the things I put in my retirement letter, but also sort of the stability that we've had with the administration and then the school board. I can't thank all of you enough. It's been great to work with all 7 of you. In fact, I believe there's only, my 10 years, I've only worked with 10 board members. Kenton Shainbauer, Sherry Brooks, and Jerry Wallerius, and Don Dvorak, I'm sorry. Don didn't hear that.
He probably is watching.
11 board members in 10 years, and I know people will reach out to me, but I don't have anything but good things to say where we're at as a district, and then especially working with the fine people that we have here. So, I think we'll have a good pool of candidates.
Well, I think timing is really important. I agree with the fact that, our pool that's out there is limited, and the sooner we get going, the better it is. It's probably one of the most important decision that a board can make as to the success of a school district. So I would suggest that we contact the search firms and have them make their presentations to us as soon as possible and get rolling.
Yeah. Do we have to do that at a meeting, or is that something we can do in the meantime? Like
You
interview?
can,
It can be a
we'll get
work
the-
session, candidates, we can do that. at a work
Yes,
session.
yes.
It's not official.
If I
Okay.
request the proposals now, they're open, it's public data, we can post them to the board meeting we have in January for sure, but I would say to take some action in January, whether, and if beforehand you want to invite someone to the January work session, we certainly can do that too, but just to try to get a little Just don't discuss it between
Sure.
all of you, but I can send it and then you can give me feedback individually, just so we don't lose a couple of weeks of time.
Yeah. And first work session in January, is it the first meeting? Is it the
It is,
organizational meeting?
yep,
Okay.
it's your
So
organizational
yes, I
meeting,
would say,
January
let's
9th.
go reach out to them right away and let's get them on that
Yep, I'll get the
agenda.
proposals.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I could have them by the end of this week even. Get them off to you, and then we can decide how to move forward.
Yeah.
So, I would say, Denny, you can help me with this, but I would say that when we did the Tim's search, it was probably the easiest superintendent search I had done. And I had done 2 at that point in time. But because they came in, they sat us down, they explained everything to us. It was very clear. We knew what our job was. But they brought in, parent committees, and they brought in administration committees, and everybody interviewed, and it was just so streamlined. It really was.
They have a very, very wonderful
Yeah.
process, though. All the firms, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to go back to what Sandy said too, is that I did use that as sort of our, where to go from here after I took the job, because the surveys were with the students, staff, parents, community members, and board members. And, as I looked, so it was sort of like in a way, a strategic plan in a way that was probably better than our old one, but it really gave me a path to go to. And I'll just tell you, like, one of the things that came up on all the surveys and meetings with everyone was facilities, how better. And so
Right.
that's why I was hired,
Priority.
in 13, and we, held the bond referendum after we had all those meetings in spring of 2015. I mean, so there was, you could see on the survey what the challenges that were needed to be addressed from the surveys. I
And-
still look back, I still have the document. I always go back to it.
And we as board members have the important decision, what are the things that we're looking for in a superintendent? What are the things that, we want in our superintendent? And that's what we will be doing as our survey, out and meeting these that we see as superintendent.
But I think the most respectful thing that Superintendent Dittburner did for this board is by giving his resignation early,
Oh, for sure.
because you'll be ahead of the game. And that's a benefit to all of you, so.
Yes, and I will reach out to the 2 new school board members, because obviously this decision will be made by the new school board. And so I will reach out to them as well prior to the January 9th meeting.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Thank
I
you.
hope you get someone that's really strong in technology.
All right.
I'll make a motion to
That
adjourn.
could coach basketball.
A motion has been for adjourning.
So
Thanks,
moved.
Matt. Kim?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 7-0.
All right,